I have, as it's already like clear over here. It's part of my doctoral thesis, which I am doing under Professor Alessandra Mizadri and Dr. Subisina, primarily under supervision of Dr. Mizadri. But I haven't kept their names on it because there will be lots of flaws, incompleteness, jumps, because it's an ongoing task right now, and I'm halfway in the writing. So all of these flaws is on me, and so that's why I haven't like kept them out of the ownership of the presentation. So yeah, uh, as you can see, the doctoral thesis out here, uh, it's talking about how to place petty commodity production (PCP) in a post-colonial capitalism in India. So the primary thesis, the my doctoral thesis is around how to posit petty commodity production in capitalism, in a capitalist structure of states like in countries like India. But this one, the findings I'm presenting here, is a part of that, and it won't be giving the whole picture, but I will try my best to put it everything together. So the whole structure is kind of uh, reversed. Like we generally start with the thesis, we generally start with the theory, and then we go into things. But what I have tried, that I have reversed it so that it will be easier for me as well, and for the listeners and spectators to understand the whole thing. So the first part is to how to put uh, the uh, like when we are talking about political economy, it's about how it's about putting everything in context. Uh, Whenever we are talking about petty commodity production, be it agrarian economy, we have to put it in the whole context of whatever is going on, of the labor relations and capitalism, too, so to say. So that I'll try to cover first. Then it will be talking about the borrowers or the debtors, to say the laborers, the PCP units, the petty commodity production units, the artisans. Then we'll be talking about the last. We'll be talking about the theoretical framework. So it's kind of uh, starting from the practical, from the lived experiences, and then going to the theory. So that's how the whole schema is presented. Now, so when we are talking about uh, capitalism, the whole thing starts from there is a crisis. We talk about crisis of capitalism, like we Marxists or anyone, like we are talking about all the time crisis of capitalism. But what is the crisis of capitalism? Is about there are arguments that is about the crisis of appropriating crisis of value appropriation, so to say, and how that would be seen on ground, how that would be seen in data. So every one of us actually have know the kind of data that there is a falling rate of GDP as well. Like there are, like if we calculate the GDP of throughout the world, and then we'll see that the GDP growth rate is kind of declining. And to make things more like more in perspective, Michael Roberts and Dipankar Basu, one of many, they have calculated the rate of profit throughout the different continents overall, like throughout the world, and they have found out that there is a the profit rate is kind of falling, right? So it comes stems out from the core of Marxian like idea that capitalism, as soon as capitalism will advances, capitalism progresses, there will be more automation, there will be and there will be no less people engaged in capitalist like labor relations, and then the rate of profit will fall. So they have shown it, and that will result, as Baran and Suizi have said, and they have shown that that will result in a centralization of capital. There is a top-heavy centralization of capital. There will be monopolization. We talk about monopoly capital all the time, right? So, and if you just uh, if you before going to the data, why the data here is important. Everyone has like know about the Meg 7 in USA. Like the seven companies, the top seven companies, they are like kind of have control over the like 38% or about that of the whole market capitalization, right? So I try to calculate the similar thing using India's data, like from it's from the stock market data actually. So it shows in the first column, if you can see, that the top 10 companies, the they have control over 25% of total market capitalization in India, and that's the profit growth rate. Five, if we take a 5 years average, and this is good. Now, if we just come down and take the top 50, is 19.23%, is getting lower. And if we take the rest of 400 companies, rest of 400 means is these 500 companies are the top 500 Indian companies as far as market capitalization is concerned. This is not joke. These are not just rest 400 companies that they are last. They are among the top 400. We can see the fall, a sharp fall of profit growth rate over here, right? So there is a circulation of capital, and except some companies, others are doing bad. Others are not struggling actually. So that's, but here, if we check the microfinance companies, these are the four microfinance companies as far as market capitalization is concerned. They are in the, so to say, the Nifty 500, top 500. You can say, see the profit growth rate out here, right? So there is a pattern emerging. And what's the pattern? Then the microfinance companies are at par or even better, performing better as far as their value accumulation is concerned, and they are like working better than the top 10 companies. So let's take a scale of microfinance in India. This is the NRLMSG model. This is the government run microcredit program, right? And this is the commercial uh, program run by different microfinance institutions. So if you can just see the total outstanding loan amount, it's about 42 billion British pounds, right? And whereas the borrower, the debtor, the number of debtors is kind of half in the commercial microfinance companies. So that means that there is the interest rate out here for the commercial microfinance companies is quite higher, and they are quite efficient in some ways or the other, right? We'll see the pattern as we go by. And this amount is not a joke. This is around the GDP of small countries like Bolivia, Lithuania, Serbia, half of Sri Lanka, right? And this 86.7 million, this is equals to the or more than the population of Germany or uh, Russia. So think about a market of around Russia or uh, uh, Russia or Germany, and then you are seeing the annual growth rate of borrowers is increasing every year by 17%. So the population of the debtors are increasing. So there must be something structural happening. And the growth rate of their overall monetary, like in the profit growth rate is, as I said, 27%. So I'll just go very fast here. So there are like uh, one, two, three, four, five categories of microfinance operations happening in India. And just if you see the blue rows, right? So you have the non-banking financial microfinance companies, NBFC. This is a terminology the Reserve Bank of India uses. And there you have small finance bank and non-financial companies. If we just, for argument's sake, if we just subtract the banks, because banks includes PSUs like the public, like the government banks, so they have subvention schemes for microcredit loans. So if for the argument's sake, if we just cut it out from the picture and uh, like calculate the rest, it's around 66% of the whole loan that the microcredit market is like monopolized by the commercial microfinance companies. That's I'm trying to show you. So let's just very quickly go through a journey of a regular microfinance. So Bandhan Bank is one of the largest commercial microfinance institutions in India. Right. In 2001, it started with a borrowed capital of this much, 4,500. Right. By 2010, it reached up 5.2 million borrowers. And by 2018, this was the market valuation of the company. So 2001, 4,500 pounds. In 17 years, 3.73 billion. That's the scale, right? What happened? What changed? This changed. World Bank came in, right? The World Bank's International Financial Corporation, which is the private wing of World Bank, they invested and they currently own 3 to 4% of the bank. And before that, in 2050 and 2018, they also the Bandhan Bank also got public, like they started selling shares. So World Bank came in, and this where the market capitalization reached. Now this is the market capitalization, 4.40 billion, 4,500 pounds, 4.40 billion in 23 years. That's miraculous. How this happened? This is how it happened. They have a microfinance loan product, which is called Srishti loan. People from India will know Srishti means creation, right? So it's a date which is creating something, which is creating value. How it's creating value? By interest collecting 22.9% interest rate annually. And what's the loan amount? 15,000 rupees. 15,000 means 140 pounds. 140 pounds. 140 pounds, as small as
Sorry, 141.
140. So 140, they are giving loan credit as small as 140 pounds at a rate of 22.94% annual interest rate. And now they are reaching here. And how it got enabled? In 2014, Government of India, Reserve Bank of India, issued it the license to be a bank, and then World Bank came in. So we are talking about crisis of capitalism. That rate was the overall rate of profit was falling. Capital was trying. What happens after that happens? Capital tries to find new avenues where they can accumulate value without engaging with labor power, directly, and it's happening here. Now, this last, I'll go very fast here. These are like some of the companies which are on national stock exchange. Again, smaller companies, but still bigger because they are like enlisted as stock companies. See the similar pattern emerging. The profit rate is as high as 30% and plus, which is adjacent to the top 10 companies in India. So it's profitable, right? Very profitable. What happens then, right? Aditya Birla Capital. Hmm. Aditya Birla Capital is a new venture, new microfinance wing. It was used to be a asset management corporation like BlackRock, right? Doing work for the rich. Now suddenly, in 2007, they had an NBFC like wing. It was not functioning. Suddenly, they entered in 2025 with a joint venture with India Post Bank, which is the government of India, like India Post, like UK Post. They entered in a joint venture, got leverage of this number of post offices, right? And this number of staffs, and this number of 180 million customers. Because what has happened with this JV, Aditya Birla Capital will be issuing loan. India Post, which is the government of India institution, their staff, their infrastructure, free of cost, will be giving referral services for the microfinance companies. Right? What Aditya Birla used to known for? People for India will know. Aditya Birla is in cements, textiles, heavy industries. Same case with Tata Capital. Tata Group, they own Jaguar, right? And they are the face of Indian industrial capitalism, the nationalist thing, the pride. So they entered in, they had an NBFC wing, similar story. In 2025, they, after entering into the microfinance space, they become public, this microfinance wing, and they raised this much of capital, 150 million GBP. This was the highest listing last financial year. So, and what was the loan amount? 5,000 rupees. What is 5,000 rupees in pounds? 45 pounds. 45 pounds. Interest rate 24% to 26% annually. So, when Tata is buying Jaguar or even Ifeco in Italy, some of the money might be coming from those people, right? And who are these people? We can see from the horse's mouth. This is Tata Capital's website. Tata Capital Microfinance Loan. They are they have written there. They are self-employed, home-based entrepreneurs in rural areas. The customers are typically engaged in small-scale income-generating activities, farming, food processing, trade, etc. So they have said that who are creating value for this? All this value coming from these people, and these people had it, and these are the artisans. Happens to be it's coincidental that to find that I was working on the artisans, the potters itself. So I used it. So these are the people who are creating that. These photos are from my fieldwork. These are collected from internet. Why? To show the variety of those self-employment activities which is going on in India, and which are the debtors. Who are the debtors? Who are creating banks? Right? This is not exhaustive. There are multiple varieties of this kind of. So why petty commodity production is important? 93% of the as of 2009, because after that census report hasn't been published. So as of as of 2009, the urban 93% of the employment coming from self-employment, the petty commodity production space, so to say, and which is which is noted by Barbara Harris White, that this is a common condition. This is the common condition of Indian common man, right? And if we have, you can go through the data which I'm not going through, but I just want to flag here. Survi Kesar and Snehashi Bhattacharya, they run the labor survey data, and they found out that 87% of the non-agricultural unorganized sector, the photos I was trying to show, they are running with unpaid labor and familial labor. These are the space of PCP. That's why it's important for the overall value accumulation. Because the question arises, how this is how these people who are not, so to say, part of the capitalist mode of production, so to say, how they are contributing that much of value to global capitalism. That's the question I'm trying to answer. Right. So the field size, coming to the field size, is the, I think it's a part two, I guess. Yeah. Right. So this is where set of West Bengal. So these two are my field size. This is Siliguri. This is a commercial corridor, and so the primary location of my research was the peri-urban. The spelling is mistaken, but the peri-urban artisanal cluster around Siliguri, and then another artisanal cluster which is totally remote rural artisanal cluster. It is by the border of Bangladesh. It's shared with Bangladesh, and there is a connection with Palpara and Bahin, like the two areas, because they come from the same caste community. And most, when the partition of Bengal happened, most of the people of this community actually migrated out from Bangladesh to Bahin first, and then in search of market they came to Siliguri, because Siliguri is the one of the junction points on the logistical hubs. Right, so there is an ancestral connection as well. So it was very interesting to see that what kind of patterns are emerging if we compare these two. And to say that the methodology was, obviously it was primarily ethnographic, but I uh, like collected some quantitative data as well to just corroborate the patterns which was emerging from the ethnographic interviews. How we are doing on that? Okay, right. So the data we'll be seeing is primary for the quantitative data. It will be from Palkara, the primary artisanal cluster, primary research area of mine, and the ethnographic testimonials will be a mixed kind of thing, coming sourcing from both sides. So if you see here that there is a stark gender asymmetry over here. It's a totally gendered label, right? And it's quite interesting that the male who are connected in this artisanal work, they are only those. I found out that only those in those families where artisanal work or these activities are the primary source of income for the whole family, the male are engaged in it. So the male members, they are higher, kind of higher in the hierarchy. So they are the master craftsmen, They are doing the what to say the uh, uh, bargaining with the traders. So they are the face. Okay? But the low skill work, the mundane work, is done by the women members of the family. So Shohini Kaur, she argued that all these women members of the family, they are actually doing credit work. The kind of work they are doing, it's there is no word for it because they are working for credit to service their debts. So this is one of the like one of the many testimonies, but I found it very interesting to share with you. Uh, so when you encounter on the field, you go there and you ask and talk to them, and you ask what is happening with your life and from where you are taking loans. They will say, why do I doing it? Even the why you are working this? Why you are doing this? They will say, yeah, I'm just sitting at home. Just sitting at home, and it's just a bit of extra money. So why they are saying it? Because they, to an outsider, they don't want to share their economic vulnerabilities, which James Scott termed as a kind of a public transcript, a kind of a transcript of like behavior to mask your vulnerabilities. So when you are you don't want to share your uh, like whatever happening in your life. But when you are going there multiple times, things are coming out. What happened with them? They had a garment shop. During COVID, the shop got closed. That was the primary earning income of the whole family. Uh, but before COVID, their shop was running well. So they took a housing loan, built a concrete house, and the garment shop got closed. Her son works as a mechanic, like uh, it's a casual salaried work, and both of them can't find work. There is no source to how to service the debt. So Maluti, she wasn't into making craft. She was not an artisan, so to say. Her father used to do that. She learned from it, but then she was not a non-practicing uh, woman from the same caste community who are into traditional artisanal work. There was no other alternative. She took up the job. Okay, I'll do this. Why? Because she was getting the loans from the microfinance institutions. Because microfinance institutions target these women. Why? I'll come to that. So now the household income is divided. Now everything has opened again. Her son is going back working as a mechanic again. Have closed down the garment shop, but they have opened a vegetable shop now as a vendor. Now they are earning, but how they have divided the earnings into two parts. The craft earnings, her earning, is used for loan repayments. Others earning, her sons and husband's earning, are running the household expenses. So this is a very rational choice they are making. Onima is one of them, and it was very stark to listen that she was saying that people like us, poor people like us, are alive because of microfinance. That is the sole source of their life, their life support, so to say. So if we, so they were doing a cost-effective analysis that why, like, there are multiple options. They could go to the self-help groups, the government-run programs. They can go to the money lenders. They can go to the family, and there was a microfinance. There are four things. But the SHGs are politically captured, they are bureaucracy, the loan amounts are less. So the government institutions were not ample, were not enough to meet their credit requirements, their cash requirements. Money lenders, why? Because they know from their lived experiences that if you take loan from money lender, your loan interest will compound. Because she said that she know a family which had to sell their land in order to service debt. So to a higher price to pay. So they were avoiding money lenders. Family, you can go to your relatives, but that comes with social stigma. That I'll go to a family member and ask for some money. Doesn't look good. So microfinance comes with the option because it's flexible. You just go there, Tata Capital, Aditya Birla Capital, Bandhan. They give you loan within 7 to 14 days, not working days. 7 to 14 days. So you can see why the artisans are preferring microfinance over any other mm, uh, uh, means as source of loan. Yeah, so pattern is kind of same here. I'm just trying to run through. So what's the money for? So if you ask them, if you like in your questionnaire, you have thought that okay, I'll ask them whether you are taking money for your artisanal work for your production activities. They will say no, we are not taking it. We are not taking loan. We don't need loan because our capital requirement is less. We There are some market fluctuations. They have to buy soil and wood and colors, and they can be it's kind of mechanized wheels for potter's wheel if you know the image, but it's relatively low. Why they are taking it? They are saying okay, then if you ask them that have you ever taken a loan? Are you on loan? Are you on debt? They are saying yes, yes. Everyone takes loan. I have loan now. I have taken loan from microfinance. Why they have taken it? Water pipe, marriage, health related cost, any emergency cost, anything. What do we call this? It's called social reproduction cost. The cost of social reproduction. That to reproduce our own lives. Yeah. How they were doing it. They have devised this joint liability group. What is it? Just a peer group. 15, 20 people, same women from the same community, the same neighborhood, and they will say, okay, we form a group, we'll give the loan to the group, to the individual, sorry, and if you don't pay, your peer will be responsible to pay this, right? So five friends comes together, gets loan each 10,000 rupees. I can't pay, he has to pay. So that's how there was a community. So there was five friends. Now their social relationship has changed. They are monitoring each other, right? So Deleuze, uh, like in a while commenting on Foucault, he was like saying that he was envisioning a kind of society of control, where society itself becomes a kind of a self-run, self-monitored entity. This joint liability group works like this, functions like this. So microfinance doesn't need any collections department. They don't need any agents. People who are taking debt, they will be working as their collections department. That's how they are reducing the cost of labor as well.
So it's not you to get a loan, you have to be in a group of people applying for it at the same time.
Yeah. So you don't have to form the group. I'm an agent. I'm a Bandhan bank agent. I come to you, and they are like 10 artisans, women. I'll say, let's. You will want loan? Okay, let's come together. You take loan, but you have to sit in the meetings regularly. You have to maintain a book, and if you don't pay loan, others will pay that. So there are instances when, suppose you can't pay. I am in your prayer, and so you don't have any other means to pay. You can't. You are defaulting. I go. I'm a friend of yours or a relative, cousin, brother, or sister for that matter. I go to your home, get a goat, which is your pet, snatch it, uh, sell it in the market, and pays back the loan. Right? But this is one interesting thing which came up, that they are so there was this entity called SHG, as I told, like self-help groups. It is microcredit groups run by the government institutions. There are schemes run by the government institutions. It's a World Bank model. It's running in many countries in global south. And what they do, that their loan amount, the interest rate like subsidized. The government pays like 10-12% of the loan amount. Bank gives it 14% loan for interest. So you pay 2% of interest, which is very like it's good like for them. So what these artisans are doing, they are recycling it. Interest rate arbitrage. So the reserve bank, the central banks do this. Like you you buy some bonds, let's say from Japan, because Japan's currency is devalued. You buy some bonds from Japan, and then you invest it in US stocks to get the differential rate of the uh, two interest rates, right? So they are doing it. So they are taking loan from microfinance because microfinance is quick. They are not asking for collateral. SHG is slow, but the interest rate is only 2%. So they are taking loan from them, microfinance, and then taking loan from SHG as well when they get it, and they are paying the microfinance loan as soon as possible to avert the long duration interest payments. Right. So this is a sophisticated grassroots arbitrage they are doing. Right. I'll just uh, go through. Uh, yeah. Skip some. Yeah. So let's come to the rural cluster. So the rural cluster story is much more interesting, so to say. It was quite surprising. Uh, it's in 160 kilometers from the primary site, totally rural agrarian agricultural area, and the traditional pottery over there was dying. Why? Because there was no market. So people were trying to move out. People moved out of Bahin and went to Palpara, Siliguri, right? So one guy, one veteran artisan, he came from Siliguri, came back to his ancestral home, found out that these people are only doing traditional craft. So he trained them, but there was no capital of that because they have to had some kind of investment to start with, working capital to start to remodel the whole pottery workshop, so to say. What happened? Bandhan came in. Bandhan came in, and so when I was asking them that who are all indebted here, who have Bandhan loan, so people are very kind of amazed and quite like they were kind of angry. So one artisan said that what are you talking about? Every one of you, every one of us has debt here, right? So what happened that due to microfinance, this can be a very good success story for Bandhan Bank because microfinance came in. these people who are doing traditional craft work, and their market, they are not successful in it. They revitalize it, and now 220 plus households are engaged in it. Right. But so, and their new road has been also been built. But while new road has been built, microfinance has connected them with a global debt network, and which is like, it's like a building a market, which Carol has argued that microfinance came in, built new market. Right. Uh, so this is kind of very coincidental. Like every year there are different handicrafts. Yes, with different handicrafts fair going on through like by the organized by the government of West Bengal, right? And to promote the artisans. So it was kind of a surprising and very like timely incident for me to check whether this all these things, all these testimonies, all this data coming from these two sites, whether they are true for other uh, craft work as well, other artisanal work as well, because they were like 52, like I kind of interviewed 52 artisans. They came from six districts, different districts of state from the state, and they were like five plus different artisanal products they were selling. Right. Let's see the data here. This is the change in pattern. They are preferring SHG now here. Right. Here also, you see that instead of microfinance, they are preferring SHG, the self-help government groups. And the pattern which I was saying, that debt recycling, multiple loans. You are taking one loan from here and then giving meeting some debt servicing otherwise. 77% had single loan, 19% had double loans, and 2.8% had three loans, more than three loans. Different.
Zero, no loans.
Uh, it was for those who had loans.
Loans. Okay. Okay.
Yes. So that was the pattern. So this pattern matched with the other the previous patterns, but there's a difference, as I said. What might be the difference? If anyone has observed, the answer was in the previous slides. This was organized by the Department of Self-Help Groups, the government. So they are showcasing that SHG house. So they are kind of pick and choose those groups, those people who are connected with SHGs, right? And then there was this temporality as well, that you take SHG when you need big capital, when you are going for a fair, when you are starting your production cycle in a year. But because SHG loan is kind of uh, once in a year, you get it. But throughout the year, you take small loans from the microfinance. So they were going to the trade fair, so they took a loan from the SHG. So the pattern kind of changed. So even the indebtedness pattern was overall the same. Uh, so now the last part. I'll take 10 minutes. So how how to read all this, how to analyze all this, how to reach what is happening with them. So uh, the primary framework which I used was of uh, Mizadri, Sweatshop regime, and it was her seminal work on the garment industries in India, the garment, the petty commodity production units, which are kind of integrated in the global value chain of garment industry all over the world, like the Primark on or other brands. And she kind of showed how the small workshops, how the small household workshops, how the courtyard has become kind of the nodes, the nodal points of this whole value accumulation of like the global capitalism, right? And she also showed how uh, like the product there is a debate of on like productive labor and reproductive labor, right? I'm not going into that because if someone questions ask question, I'll go into that. But it got blurred. The reproductive labor is when you are taking care of your family, you're trying to reproduce your family, your life. And then productive work is when it's get valorized, when it creates some value. So there is some kind of distinction in uh, uh, which Marx called illusion. It's just an illusion, right? So this gets blurred. So the same thing, if you just picturize this, the small fragmented units of petty commodity production units working all through, and they are contributing to the same value chain, the same global capitalism. They're, right. So you can see a collective worker. There is a like a factory when there are people working in the supply chain, working in the different floors, but contributing to the same factory. So if we take from like expand from Mizrahi's framework, she actually kind of, to my view, is drawing inspiration from Mario Tronti's uh, uh, conception of the collective worker, the social factory, so to say. Uh, so Tronti kind of it's this line sums up what Tronti argued, that capital sees labor process only as a process of valorization. That whatever you do, it's it's what is this? Oh my god. Good.
One more reason to, you have the hard.
Just a second. Which one should I?
Yeah, good.
Is this working? Yeah. Right. Uh, so whatever you do, if as a labor, as a producer, your labor type, there is a unique concept in Marx, concept of labor type, right? So if your labor time gets appropriated, whether you are in a wage labor condition or any other labor process, so to say, if you are producing value, the capitalism sees you as a as nothing else but a means to create value. That's it. And then the whole society kind of functions as a function of factory. Like everyone is contributing to the whole value chain, so to say. Right. So as I'll don't have time, I guess. So just to what happened that microfinance kind of uh, fulfills this vision. It's come as a tool because what microfinance goes in, it lends money to directly to the PCP households, and households deploy their living labor. Living labor means your human being's natural capacity to labor. Doesn't mean whether you are in a exchange relationship or not. They deploy households deploy living labor to just to survive. And out of that, microfinance is kind of creating a way to capture value out of this reproductive labor. as an interest, which Harris White like said that it's a kind of an absolute surplus value, which I'll, uh, if I have time, I'll uh, right. So what's indebtedness regime? So regime means how, what's the politics, what's the structure, what's the underlying factor which is interlocking this what if this all these PCP households into this global debt network, in this whole social factory, because every factory has a kind of regime that you work as a wage labor, you are in a part of a wage labor regime, right? So for this, what I'm trying to I was trying to like convey throughout, that for this indebtedness, how for this PCP factories, PCP households to contribute value in the global debt network, there need to be a different regime, because there need to be some politics in it. So it's actually, it was, the term was coined by Robert Dinast, but I have tried to expand and like it was as per my research. So debt is working as a social bond, because as I said that the JNG group, the groups, the peer groups, it's it's coming in, it's working as the, and debt is working as the key factor, the key governing factor of this bond, of this group, right? And then capital is transferring the risk of capitalism onto the producers. Now, if raw material goes up, input price goes up, the woman has to self-exploit more. They have to work for more times, right? Uh, okay, right. So I'll end with this. So do I have 2 minutes? Okay, all right, right. So I want to tell a story. She is last 2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes. I'll yeah. Yeah. So she is 72 years old. Her family, her two grandsons, one granddaughter. Granddaughter has to be married, and the sons, one is in college, one is unemployed, and the family has taken some loans to start a new business. She is 72 years old and she is working. Why? Because she needs to pay debt. That's the innate violence in this indebtedness regime. There's an innate exploitation, and that kind of creates a new kind of subjectivity. That all the exercise, even the debate, which I kind of skipped, the Henry Bernstein, Barbara Harris White, Kallan Sannal debate, and the whole debate, which Journal of Agrarian change, a portion of it has been contributed a lot. That how do you define the subjectivity of these people, of these petty commodity producers? So indebtedness regime gives that subjectivity. What is the subjectivity of this woman, I ask? And Marx kind of answers it. In credit, the man himself, instead of metal or paper, has become the mediator of exchange, has become the mediator of exchange, not however as a man, but as the mode of existence of capital and interest. The medium of exchange, therefore, has certainly returned out of its material form and been put back in man, but only because the man himself has been put outside himself. Because so he is talking about estrangement, alienation. Debt is alienating. Even they are working in their household, producing some products, but debt is creating a subjectivity of kind of which is similar to it. Thank you. I finished that. Okay.
Thank you very much for that, Ananyo. That was very rich, a journey really. You started the way you presented. I think was quite useful, and I recognize perhaps a bit more challenging than usual because you couldn't access your notes. But I think you conveyed the main points. So now it's time for debate. We hope it should be fine if people online just want to open your mics and intervene. That should work. And here, of course, we can raise your hands. We might need to speak a bit loud so that everybody else can listen. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. As you know, today with IT, it's a bit messy, but we're managing. Right. So I just invite people online or here in the room as well. If you can raise your hand or if you wanna go have a question, we could do that. To kick things off, and as people think about some questions, I can start perhaps with
Yeah,
just
sure.
one very brief.
Just let me grab my.
Yes, yes. And then there's another one here. So, but we can do a first round of three questions. So then we have three in the room. Then the second round could be people online, if that's okay. We'll do that then. Okay. So my question, is the last part you were saying that debt can be seen as a way of forming social bonds. My question to you is actually related to microfinance. There was a research by Kate McLean that she conducted in Bolivia, in my secret. And the conclusion was actually the opposite because of this mechanism of having a social group, that you actually rely on each other, being the one that actually try to make sure that everybody is paying and the rest of it. In practice, we're destroying social bonds because people are starting to fight against each other. So if you can comment on that, that will be my question. We have another question there. If you can speak, please, loud.
Okay, my name is William Mungo, and my question is about the gender in terms of the agrarian sector. We know that women they work very hard in the agrarian sector. However, the effort is undermined.
Yeah.
But this indebtedness regime, I'm wondering, is it a way for them to the reinforce the image within the sector where they're working? Because by being indebted, being in this regime, they will create some social bond with others, will support them, and that can reinforce the image that we have of them. Because they work very hard, like this lady we saw, 72 years old, still working.
Mhm.
But if she's a hub, if there's a social bond around her, that will also raise her profile and the results as well
Uh-huh.
as of there.
Okay, thank you. And one more for this round, Lorena.
So I just like one, actually there are three very small, I guess, concise questions. The first one is about the link between the start of your presentation in which you picture this sort of monopoly capitalism or where the capital is and this so if you understand the mechanism of extraction that you're trying to picture, but if there like you can comment a little bit on clearly on these patterns. The second one is about the fact that you mentioned a commercial corridor. I know that it's a very minor point, maybe, but I want you to comment on it because I found this corridor also from a colonial perspective very problematic as a term. I mean, we are abusing it, and I sometimes wonder what is a corridor. So if you can define it in your own research. And the third one is a methodological question. You mentioned that you've done interviews, right, with these, and you complement it with mixed data, but the quantity, what is the secondary, what is the, it would be interesting to hear your methodology in a bit more.
Okay, great. So that's the first round. So please, people online, just wait. You'll have your turn for the second round. So Alayo,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
Right. So thanks for the. Oh yeah. Okay. Should I stop
No,
this?
no, it's fine.
I'll just because
You want
because I skipped those parts which you have asked actually. Right. Uh, uh, okay. Okay, leave it.
Yeah, it's weird.
Just keep it simple.
Yeah. Right. So by social bonds, I kind of meant a form of
I think it's fine. You can.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's just the screen.
Okay, right. So as social bond, I meant that the bond is kind of an obligation. Like when the Ernst is talking about the indebtedness, so it's a bond between the debtor and the creditor, the debtor and the creditor. Yeah. So who is paying, who is giving debt, the who has the money capital, the microfinance, the monopoly capital, whatever you say, and the person who is paying the debt. So that there is a bond, there is a direct connection being created here. That's the kind of bond. And then obviously in the question of like the groups, as you said, I, I totally agree and with the findings, because as I said that when, as I cited the example that the friends who are coming together in a forming a kind of group, but then their social bonds is eroding because they are now part of this whole financial governmentality, so to say, that they are ensuring that the other person pays the debt. So there is a kind of a coercion coming in. So the community is breaking, but the bond is with the the big capital, so to say. Uh, to your question about reinforcement of uh, women and their like valorization of their uh, uh, labor, so to say. That's what it's all about. Like when we are talking about the reproductive labor, right? So first of all, it's trying to emphasize the source of surplus value in capitalism. That's the unpaid labor, the reproductive labor, which is happening outside the so-called realm of capitalist relationship by the woman, right? So that is one kind of like theoretically and kind of also practically kind of trying to emphasize their role in the whole global schema. And there is how they can go above it, transcend this whole structure you asked. uh, I want to flag a book uh, called Community Economies in Global South. uh, I think uh, it is edited, but it's an edited volume, and there are multiple case studies from across global South, from Latin America, from Africa, from Asian countries, where the authors have tried to showcase indigenous, native kind of informal credit unions, which is called ROSCAS, rotating uh, like which we call credit unions, like credit cooperatives, so to say. So there are this kind of practices happening. I think there were cases of Nigeria and other and also like Philippines and different parts of the world, and uh, there are even institutional mechanism as well, because as I said that the self-help groups which many government institutions have built throughout the global South. But the thing is, it's a political process, right? So it has to be taken as a political task to reinvigorate these SHGs, these groups, and then like fight with the so-called global capital. So this is a political task, so to say. Yeah. And to your point, thank you for the question. For corridor, didn't get you fully, but the corridor means the logistical corridor I was talking about. That um, like the primary field site, which was in Siliguri, as I said. So uh, if I meant if I uh, understood you rightly. I didn't actually understand the question, like what corridor I was you referred to, but the corridor I mentioned here was about a kind of a logistical corridor uh, around the peri-urban areas where it's a kind of a node to the whole logistical capital uh, going to and fro Siliguri, which is a kind of a mercantile hub.
Okay.
So yeah, that's I was talking about. And as far as methodology is concerned, it was primarily ethnographic interviews, unstructured, open-ended. Uh, Primary research was designed on the peri-urban side. From them, the respondents, I get to know about the other side, snowballing,
Yeah.
right? So, and the quantitative data are majorly from the yeah. So it's part of the mixed method approach that we kind of try to look at the tendency of indebtedness and then kind of compare it with the ethnographic interview which is coming in, right? And there's only one fully quantitative survey I did, which was on the fair, the 52 artisans who like incidentally came into one place, so that I can just check my validity that what the finding was. Yeah. So that was the methodology.
Thank you very much. Let's go for the second round then. I know that there are questions on the chat already by Arun Bristiam Prachi, so that could be the second round. If you would like to open your mics, perhaps that's easier. So Arun, perhaps you would like to open your mic and make your question.
Yeah, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay. So first of all, I mean, this is a very interesting talk, Ananyo. Thanks for that. So, okay, let me just, yeah. Yeah,
Yes,
so
go ahead.
I have several questions, but I mean, I'm just going to stick to few of them here. So first question is that the macro level data suggests that, I mean, like I recently read a paper like few days back on GDP overestimation and that debate, right?
Yeah.
So people are saying that the total credit growth in the last 2 decades has actually declined substantially. Like, you know, it's been a like sharp fall from 12.6% to almost 3.7%. Now, this is about the private, like formal credit, right? It doesn't include informal credit. But it is also a period when you have highly fast growth, I mean, fast increase in the household indebtedness. So I
Yes.
assume that it's sourced by informal credit than the formal credit. But you're talking about a different story. How do you, account for that? That is first one. Second is for your rural households, right? So the autonomous approach seems quite appropriate because I mean there is like a lot of value production directly, right? It's financed for value production. But for your urban case, it seems more like a COVID response kind of a story where they're it's like a social reproduction mitigation kind of a stuff, right? So how do you then no, so do you think it's more closer to Sanyalian process or Sanyalian need economy as compared to a autonomous approach where everything is a value generating activity, right? And the third question is that do you have any evidence on interlocking markets when you're talking about microfinance? Because when we talk about interlocking markets, then informal credit is a easier kind of a mode, right? But when you talk about microfinance, it's a more formal approach, so formal process. So how do we talk about interlocking in that sense? These are the three questions. But one more question is, how is
I think that I'm sorry. I think that should be enough. It's
okay?
just
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah,
to
I'm
give
sorry.
space to others, and then
Sorry,
we'll
sorry.
have exhausted
Yeah,
otherwise.
yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
those three questions, very good questions, by the way. So yes, Brashti, please, would you mind open your mic and make your
Yes.
question?
Hello,
Go ahead.
am I audible?
Yes, we
Hello,
can
am I
hear you.
audible?
Yes, we
Hello.
can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
My work is also on micro artisanal family firms, and as you mentioned in the presentation, debt comes up as a very important theme. So I have a couple of questions. Firstly, the artisans that you're talking about, do they work for someone or they sell their products like directly to the marketplaces or the customers? Secondly, what is the difference between how a self-help group and the joint liability groups that you mentioned work, Like, are there any differences, or like both are group loans as much I understood? So, what are the differences? And third, did you come across any form of informal loan, like loans from family member, kin members, or maybe caste group members? Like, for instance, when you were talking about this entire indebtedness, the cycle, so are there instances where these artisans approach these social relations to maybe repay some other kind of loan? So these are my questions.
Thank you very much. Another good set of good questions. And finally, Prachi, would you mind please open your mic and make your question?
Hi, Ananyo. My question is that the joint liability groups that you mentioned, are these caste heterogeneous, or is it the same caste women taking care of each other's liability? Also, if they are not caste heterogeneous, what kind of social bonding, how do you theorize that social bonding that you spoke about? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we should have time for one last round, but Anna, go ahead.
Okay. So yeah, can I? Okay. Um, Thanks for all the like very insightful questions. First, yeah, thank you for flagging the paper, Arun. I will go through it. And as far as as you said rightly, that the overall indebtedness in India is increasing, whereas the formal kind of formal loans or the formal credit is kind of declining. So that actually kind of bolsters the overall argument or the scenario which is being presented through the penetration of commercial microfinance in the whole scenario. And secondly, you asked about Sannal. Yeah, I didn't have time to like to uh, cover it, but yeah, the primary argument which I had in mind when thinking about PCP is that India as an economy, the main issue is the surplus labor, like the surplus population, because uh, uh, and so Sannal actually kind of gives the basis of seeing how this specific like petty commodity production units actually places itself in the whole scenario. So and then we can like it kind of do not kind of agree with the formulation of need economy of Sanyal, because it kind of closes the value in motion, so to say, because the PCP units are not participating; they are totally non-capitalist. But actually, when getting connected with microfinance, those units are actually producing values, right? And even the if even if they are not, they have to like participate in the market, sell their products. As I see here, Barbara has asked the question. I am also trying to rope that in this question, because uh, uh, here what is happening, the PCP the regime is that loaning is being provided, you do whatever you want to, but pay my loan, pay my debt. That's the whole indebtedness regime is all about. I don't capital doesn't care. That I was trying to like when Tronti is talking about the process of valorization in social factory, that's what comes in, right? Because like whatever you do, you just pay the debt. You can uh, work as a subsistence farmer, you can work as a artisan, you can like just be a vendor and sell food items by the road. Doesn't matter to capital, as long as you are taking loan from it and then paying it debt. So that's how uh, the value which is being created by these PCP units are actually getting captured through interest, to answer Barbara's question as well. Uh, And to interlocking, I didn't actually understand the question fully. If I as far as interlocking, like if you compare it with Alessandra Mesadri's conception, like conception of interlocking, uh, she was talking about the uh, contractors, the labor contractors who are kind of connecting the PCP units with the global value chain as agent of this interlocking, like interlocking mechanism in the sweatshop regime. Here, the interlocking regime is just the debt itself, right? Because again, it's coming down to the debtor and creditor relationship. Uh, Then the other questions about labor relations, I think I answered the question because they are not working for anyone else. There are some traders who buy their products at like wholesale price, but uh, the the artisans I met, I interviewed, they wants to keep their price at autonomy, because when you are selling bulk to a trader, you lose, and you obviously get like 30%, 40% of your the value of the produce you are selling beforehand, delivering the goods. But then uh, the artisans, they say that okay, but we I lose my the autonomy of negotiating price with any other buyer, right? So they don't want to lose that autonomy. There are obviously some artisans who sell it to others, but like work for others. But working for others is a kind of totally different kind of connotation to say it's a kind of wage labor relationship. This is not the case. Yeah. And JLG and SHG, it's a different structure. Joint liability group is totally commercial kind of setting, controlled by the microfinance organizations. SHG has the same kind of similar kind of setting, so to say, but the the difference is in the uh, the interest rates, uh, government's intervention, and uh, yeah, government's intervention, and uh, yeah, and obviously SHGs kind of uh, work as a buffer, like it resists the in penetration of commercial microfinance. So that's why the artisans, we can see in the data that artisans were preferring that will take loan from the SHG, or they are trying to recycle the debt, doing an arbitrage. So that's what it is. Uh, uh, there was a question about family members, I guess. And caste heterogeneity. As I said, that all these artisans are from the same caste group. They are from the traditional Pal Kumukar community, the Pal community, who comes on in as an OBC in India caste structure, in West Bengal's caste structure. I think that's it.
Okay, and for the final round, we have here Shaban. Okay, we're gonna close with all of you. So there's one online and three in the room. We can do that, and then that will be it. So let's take the online question first, so that it will be easier. So Luis, can you please open your mic and make your question?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
I am curious about, thanks of all for your opinion, for your presentation. My question is regarding your opinion. What's your opinion on the use of the labor regime approach to illuminate the underlying factors of change, and how the description of multiple labor regimes can illuminate those underlying factors? How, and if we are approaching to a scenario where describing multiple and interconnected, but in ambiguous ways, how can we avoid that scenario of describing multiple labor regimes that are not so clearly linked or distinct between each other. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Shapan?
Okay, this is a very interesting paper, and as description, as ethnographic description, it's interesting. The problems that arise because there's an attempt to theorize this fake description, and it leads to certain problematic issues. The first one that I want to focus on is the notion of centralization.
Yeah.
You use that in this context of saying what proportion of the capital in this market is controlled by the top companies. Now that seems to me, as a concept, one of concentration. It is not centralization. Centralization has a very different meaning, which is that of small capitals getting up to the either by force or through joint stock company and so on. So this seems to be erroneous. There are many other issues, but I'll just focus on one. The question of
A bit louder, little bit louder.
question of how the role played by the peer group, the self-help group, in kind of policing the loan repayment, right? And look, the discussion has been about whether this leads to creation of social bonds or actually destruction. Let me just put it this way. If you look at it in terms of the actual function of the peer surveillance, this is what Yunus was doing the document about called the social collateral. And basically what it does is that the supervision of the labor process, which in capitalism is done by the capitalist or his agents, these are agents, is transferred to fellow producers.
Yes.
Right? So, in a sense, the operational accountability of production is transferred from the capitalist to the forward traders.
Yes.
This is precisely the inverse of what capitalism does. The implication is that this is fundamentally different. This kind of extraction of surplus is fundamentally different, qualitatively different from the extraction of surplus value through the production in labor processes supervised by the state.
Yeah.
It is in fact exactly the opposite.
Yeah.
So this then also raises questions about the quality that you have, how would it commodity production, stock use, the valorization of global capitalism. The two are not commensurable. They are very different categories. I don't see how you reconcile this. You can say descriptively that the surplus taken out as interest is what goes into the bank account of capital. That we can see. But it doesn't show that this is global, this is a kind of value form extracted from the credit operation, which is commensurate with surplus value, and therefore is appropriated as surplus value. That is not necessary. That is not proven. It's simply a surplus.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that. Yes.
It's quite simple.
A bit louder.
It's quite a simple question about really. So you're describing really essentially like the trap that the kind of get into. I'm wondering, how aware of this that they're in this trap are people at the time, and then did you see many people kind of manage to break out of this cycle, and what that look like around?
Okay, great. The final one.
Yeah, that's one. So the ATMs and all those hundreds of apps are there on the Indian website. Are they also considered microfinance? Number one. Number two, I mean, they are also giving loans, and very easily you can get loans in 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And yes, so number two is I have one question asking. Okay, so this on the question. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. The first question was on multiple labor regimes, and if we take this as everything as a class. These things as a class process. Class process means that a producer of value uh, gets the value gets appropriated by someone else. Someone produces value, and someone else appropriates that. Resnick and Wolf, in their seminal work Knowledge as Class, they kind of tried to theorize this thing, that, and when we take it, like it's a kind of a post-colonial conundrum that Ranavi Samadar has kind of said, like termed it as a post-colonial predicament, that different kind of multiple varied kind of labor processes, labor regimes are like coinciding each other and like coexisting, and creating a kind of a post-colonial subjectivity that was run with some of this argument. But uh, if we try to see it from the point of view of class processes, the as I tried to say, that uniqueness of Marxist idea was that uh, when one has to sell their labor time to subsist, to live, right? So when one individual has to sell their labor time, had to commodify their labor time to subsist, right? So that creates a kind of a subjectivity. So when trying to reconcile with these kind of multiple labor regimes, I think one of the potent framework which was provided by Gibson Graham in diverse economies, where they kind of tried to argue that post-colonial capitalism is kind of a tip of the iceberg, is a heterogeneous capitalism. There are different kind of elements, different kind of labor class processes coinciding each other, and then but still it's under the overall realm of capitalism. So there might be different kind of labor relations, but it's still within the realm of capitalism. Why? Because then, first of all, when you are in a piece, you are engaged in a PCP, like the petty commercial production unit, and you are kind of uh, um, like trying to trying to give back your debt, right? With like repay your debt. That creates the same kind of subjectivity which the wage labor relations might, because that's what I'm trying to reach at, that the estrangement which Marx was talking about is kind of it's similar. And I think uh, Balibar, in his articulation of absolute capitalism, many others, and in even in Dienst's argument, uh, and autonomous schools like Fumagalli, they are kind of trying to theorize this. So I am uh, not trying to theorize this. I'm trying to trying to understand how these things are coexisting and then still striving, right? So then there was this question on uh, trap, I guess, Nikita. Reproduction. Yeah, trap. You asked for.
Like how
Yeah, got it. Yeah, got it. So I think laborers, or you can call it micro entrepreneurs, whatever name you can give them, they have make a rational choice, which I try to say, that they are trying to use it whenever they know that it's bad, that there's a huge interest to be paid, but they don't have any other choices, right? So for them, it's for them. For some of them, it's a trap. Some of them, it's their only life support. So I haven't met anyone who has like come out of the trap, so to say. There was one testimony which I skipped was one of the master craftsmen who has bank linkages, like the and so he doesn't use like microfinance unless there is an emergency, but still he uses it sometimes. So it's a kind of permanent real bond, so to say. With it's a kind of permanent entrapment, because when you are in the whole circuit of capitalism, you just like you just can't simply go out, right? Unless you are employing more familial labor, making like employing external labor as well, and you are accumulating, so to say, over your subsistence level, uh, then you can. I haven't found any. Yeah. Uh, yeah. Se- uh, okay. Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I missed or not. Is there any legal framework for, because in comparison with SBA and TN and other mainstream banks, if they're charging a lot, I mean 29, 25, is there any legal framework for this?
I haven't found any legal framework. I haven't looked into as well, because, but as far as the microfinance industry report is concerned, there is none. They have to abide by RBI guidelines that they have to keep certain amount of working capital with them. So the bank, the NBFC, the non-banking financial corporations or MFIs doesn't default, right? But the retention rate is 98% average.
So the rules are different for SBI and then Google FinCorp, or
Yes,
one
yes. Even for that, but if you compare it in like 2020, 24 to 25 financial year and the previous year, though in 2024-25 financial year, the RBI brought in some legal framework to control, like to just try to restrain some of these predatory loans, to say, so to say. Uh, but yeah, so that's why the profit amount kind of went down, because they had to keep certain amount of working capital in their books. Otherwise, they're
it's state back in a manner.
yes, obviously. That's why I try to say that RBI is giving like it's pushing them, right? Because when you are a neoliberal framework and the state is like taking itself back from all public goods investments, going like the like PSU bankings, what options do others are left with?
All right. And the very last, we can squeeze that one. Ritika, it's very short. Whether you came across of asset-based lending practices among informal artisan groups.
No, I haven't. I haven't.
Okay.
Simply.
Short question, short answer. I'm not sure if you can hear, but the party is starting, so this is a good time to finish. There's music happening here at SOAS. So shall we thank again Ananyo for this brilliant presentation?
Yeah. I try to give because that's when I obviously it's not like the wage labor relationship doesn't look capitalist. It's not capitalist in a way, because the whole point of their productive activity is to ensure their subsistence. It's a reproductive activity. The logic of their production is reproductive in nature. The point is how they are, what is the avenue that they are being connected with the whole schema of global capitalism. There are two. Kesar, and I was trying to like come into it if time allows, or we can talk
Yes,
later on this.
I think, I mean, it was clearly the most challenging question, so perhaps we can.
Concentration and
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Let's do that one, and then
yeah, that might be a misnomer. I have like centralization, but I wanted to say centralization, so to say that there the whole investment, like the whole from the capitalist's point of view, when I was saying that the 400 small companies are doing bad and the top companies are doing great, this is kind of a centralization happening in like the smalls are getting killed in a way. But then the dichotomy is that the really small, the micro, the PCP units are not getting diminished. They are thriving. So there is obviously the question to be reconciled with. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you again. Thank you, Shaban. Thank you to everyone. It's good to see that the seminar got again this sort of very challenging space,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I seem to
yeah,
recall there were
exactly.
older versions in which Henry and others would
But yeah,
be
this
very
is-
polemical. So that's quite good. So thank you, everyone. Before we go, the last thing from me, we have another seminar coming up. So that's happening on April the 9th. The title is Disarticulated Integration, South African Capital, Extractivism, and the Struggle Over Social Reproduction in Mozambique. So please do join us for that one. Ruth Castel Branco from the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa will join us online. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. That will be online
Okay.
only. Yes. And thank you for your patience with the IT. Thank you again. Yes.